Now, this week's extra one-on-one in 10 with Te Ao with Moana host Moana on her explosive new interview with Winston Peters, the challenges the Fourth Estate faces covering this election, and her thoughts on Maiki Sherman standing down from TVNZ. Kia ora, comrade. Welcome to the show, and thank you for being available for the Fourth Estate. Your democracy is grateful.
Kia ora, Martin. How are you?
I'm very well. Moana, you just gave a masterclass in how to interview Mātua Winston on your brilliant Te Ao with Moana on Māori TV. So I just wanted first to congratulate you on such a powerful piece of Fourth Estate journalism. Winston clearly respects you because he allows you to ask those critical questions, and instead of yelling at you the way he does with everyone else, he answered. And we were exposed to just how hollow his reasoning is. That's what legitimately surprised me, that when he was forced to answer, his reasons were farcical. What did you think of his answers?
Much the same. I mean, to give him his dues, he always fronts, but then he's a master in terms of, trying to control the interview. I must thank you for your kind remarks, but I kind of like whacking myself around the face because I thought I didn't keep the face as straight as I ought to. And my tone came through because I couldn't help myself. I had to go, really? So, I'm trying to build up my skills. I thought what was most fascinating was, well, we know that he frames himself as the champion for ordinary people.
Yeah.
But when I ask him, when I suggest that ordinary people have never been worse off, he's just like Boulder Dash. That's rubbish.
Yeah,
and you give examples. And he just dismisses it. And the kinds of, it felt like he never is really quite clear on who those ordinary people are. So it felt like everybody was getting a whack in that interview. I mean, the media, my show was called Stupid on a stupid Māori TV that nobody watches. I'm like, well, hello. You're on it for the fourth time.
Yeah.
But also, so he was having to go at media. He was having to go at all the bureaucrats and officials who I suggest give him a lot of the evidence, got the evidence and the paperwork that assists ministers and all that. Immigrants, other political parties. He made assumptions that somehow I've got something to do with the Waitangi Tribunal. I'm a Te Pāti Māori, radical. And, just huge assumptions.
Yeah.
Any question, anytime a question was asked where he felt challenged, then he either turned on me or just went, this is extraordinary. This is Boulder Dash.
Looking at his answers, he's fighting 1980s issues with 1970s solutions to problems in 2026. Why is he polling so high, do you think?
Well, because I think it's the way he talks. You see, I noticed even like it's not what he says, it's how he says it. And he seems to have this connection with people who believe that he is challenging the establishment. Despite
when he is the establishment.
He represents the establishment, that he is an opposition leader in Parliament when he's actually been at the cabinet table. So these are the kind of contradictions that are fascinating. He will always point to his record in the past.
Yes.
He's done some good things in the past, but when I asked him to explain what has he done in this last term, all he says is New Zealand First needs 3 terms.
Yes. That was his response to you. 9 years. He needs to be in charge for 9 years?
9 years, yes.
Jesus,
so that's quite a bit of a. So he couldn't really come up with anything, anything concrete. Sure. It was interesting because we talked about superannuation, and he's always like National has pushed for it to be the age to be raised, and he's always had a hard line on it staying there.
Yeah.
But just recently the Prime Minister's talked about that's back on the table, isn't it?
That's right.
Superannuation, which doesn't really work for Māori because our lot die a lot earlier. But
That's right.
But of course he goes back to Apirana ngata.
Yes, I saw that. And you rolled your eyes and went, "Oh, come on." What was it like? What was it like when the cameras weren't rolling? Because he can be disarmingly charismatic, can't he?
Well, I mean, I've known him for years.
Yes.
Not, we're not close friends or anything, but just the different circles that we all move in.
Sure.
And it's always, kia ora, chief, how you going? Kia ora, moana, and that's all fine. It's just that when the camera comes on, there's a different,
Yeah. Yeah.
we move into a different phase. And he, he did project some of his things that he was saying were incorrect, particularly around that India.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Yeah, completely wrong about that, wasn't he? It seems that Winston is trying to be Nigel Farage and ride a wave of conspiracy theory nuttiness and anti-immigration xenophobia while disguising his donors' interests as national interests. Do you think he believes the garbage he's spewing now, or is this all about positioning himself to be Prime Minister for 12 months in the next government?
I really don't know. I get
you think he believes it? You think he believes it?
I think it's a little bit of it's a ploy. I mean, I think he's very astute in terms of attracting and connecting with people who want scapegoats.
Yep.
And he definitely wants to be back in.
Yep.
But then my question was, what have you done? Because, why would anyone want you back in? Pay equity. I mean, that was a big thing, wasn't it?
Yes. Yes.
All those people, their claims out the window. So, it just seems that he's on a roll. And but it was interesting when we came out of there because he gave us a lot of time.
Yes.
Him and his gave us a lot of time. Previously they booted us out, but that's when we crashed into the Prime Minister coming to visit.
Well, that's right. Your late night interview with Winston became part of the news because Luxon was visiting Winston right after your interview in regards to the release of emails that showed the Prime Minister wanted to support the illegal war against Iran. Winston claims that was a mistake of process, but it was a metaphorical drive-by shooting and firebombing of the PM's electoral office in Botany, wasn't it? Wasn't it?
You mean the actual release of the email?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know what was going on there, but I mean, like I was challenging Winston over that kind of bland response to the attack by the states and Israel on Iran, and he just kept saying that he was giving context and we were acknowledging the context. But when you saw the Prime Minister's stance, which was for New Zealand to give explicit popular support, I'm thinking, okay, I think Winston, you did a bit better on that front, but still not enough for many New Zealanders.
You also met the PM as he was walking into Winston's office and he took a selfie. Did you press him on why he refuses to come on your show? And do you think it's right that he avoids Tova on TVNZ breakfast?
I was talking with Dale Husband, Julian Wilcox, Mihi Ngarangi Forbes, Jack Tame. I haven't caught up with Tova, but I mean, like all of us are on the out.
Yeah.
I was the first one that got ghosted.
Yeah.
I've only had one interview with him, and that was when he just became the leader of the National Party.
Yes.
I think we did it at the Kingsland or somewhere
That's
up
right.
the top there. And then and Dale said he had it before he became Prime Minister. None of us can get in there. Julian might have had the last one, and Julian sort of said, hey, you're going to be interviewed by my mates, Mihi and Moana. Oh, yeah. So, I've seen him about 4 times.
Yep.
And I'm like, you're a Prime Minister. When are we going to do that interview? Come on. And he's like, oh, yeah. And then he walks off.
You are at the front line of current affairs in New Zealand. How difficult, with the attacks on public broadcasting, the dismantling of the Broadcasting Standards Authority and the economic downturn, all contributing to the Fourth Estate's ability, in your opinion, to be able to cover the election in November?
Well, the thing is, Bomber, I went across to Kuala Lumpur in September last year for the Global Investigative Journalism Conference, which was absolutely fascinating, 135 countries there. And we heard a lot from journalists who were reporting out of Gaza, out of Venezuela, where they've actually put together AI avatars to be able to get their news out safely.
Yes,
We
yes,
heard
I saw
all
that.
about from Maria Ressa from the Philippines, who was arrested 11 times by the president there, talking about authoritarian rule
Yeah.
and how journalists are not influencers, how they've got to be able to, really stick to it. And then I came away thinking, Jesus, we're lucky. We're not getting arrested, we're not getting shot. But all the red flags are there in terms of this constant undermining of the media, this constant framing of it as biased, as radical. If you ask the questions, and the whole point of the media, well, journalism, is to ask the questions and ensure that those in power are accountable.
Yes.
When you have the Broadcasting Standards Authority taken away, flawed though it was, and nothing left, there is that is a big red flag. And I remember when I first got into journalism, I had no bloody idea how it works. But Colin McRae said to me, "You have to be fair, balanced, and accurate."
Yeah.
Fair, balanced, and accurate. And we try really hard to be fair, balanced, and accurate in an unfair, unbalanced, blimmin' environment. Now, those are standards that are people in the media don't have to be held up against. And so we had to be really careful. If I gave an opinion piece on Te Awa with Moana, it had to have opinion.
Sure.
So I am worried about this kind of erosion of journalism as like a sport.
Yeah.
And we'll try really hard in the move up to the election to be fair, balanced, and accurate, and that's all we can do. But yeah, I am concerned.
Finally, Moana, what are your thoughts about Maiki Sherman stepping down as TVNZ political editor 6 months before an election for an event that occurred last year? Is there a double standard placed upon Māori women in leadership?
Well, I didn't really. The way I looked at it was, here you've got as a professional, senior, very experienced political editor who was asking questions. Now there were people on the so-called left, whatever that is now, who would, criticize her, and on the right,
that's
the
right.
same.
Yeah, that's right.
I didn't look at her and say she's gone because she's a Māori woman. I looked at her, she's gone because she's a bloody good journalist who happens to be a Māori woman.
Yep.
And one less provocative, challenging journalist could be quite useful for some groups in our society. So I look at the timing of it. I look at who championed that.
Yes.
And those are the things that concern me.
Thank you, comrade, for sharing your insight and oversight this evening. Love to you. Love to the crew over at Te Awa with Moana. You're doing amazing work.
Oh, thank you, Bomber. Kia ora.
Be well.